Ugh. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome Cuson, joined as always by Brian and Brian. We are going to be finishing our conversation on Moonlighting and Miami Vice, as we will be reviewing two more episodes of each. First, we are going to be discussing Moonlighting. That would be season 3, episodes 10 and 14. Please leave a 4 or 5 star review on Apple and Spotify to get those algorithms going. And please like and subscribe on YouTube and click the bell icon for notifications. Brian, we are going to be finishing our conversation on Moonlighting and Miami Vice. We are not discussing the finale for each, but I do have a little bit of a treat. I'll be doing some live reading tonight, discussing the finale of Moonlighting, and some of what happened and why the show kind of went downhill. But we're going to be talking about two of the highest rated episodes of the show. We are literally going to be talking about the highest rated episode. That will be I Am Curious, Maddie. But first, we are going to talk about probably my favorite title, and I mainly chose this episode because Brian is a huge horror fan. So I thought we have to talk about Poltergeist 3, DePesto, Nothing, which is a great title. And I also had ulterior motives as well. I really wanted us to talk about just get a little bit more of a discussion going on Agnes and see kind of the budding relationship between her and Bert. We saw it a little bit in the episodes we talked about last week. They kind of expand on it this week. And I thought it would be very fitting. And also, I really like we could have done any number of episodes in the kind of that final 5 that basically encompass the ending basically plot line, and I did not want to talk about it for too long. The beginning of episode 14 kind of succinctly sets everything up. But let's talk about Poltergeist 3, DePesto, Nothing. We basically get almost no Bruce Willis or Cybil Shepherd. It feels like they wanted to take a break and did not want to be a part of this episode for whatever reason. Brian, I also want to point out that the episode before this one was a clip show. So Bruce Willis and Cybil Shepherd, they're already starting to kind of clock out.
Well, Miami Vice didn't do a clip show until season 4 when Crockett got shot, and they had a whole bunch of highlights and then had like half the episode of new footage. So it gets to that point, folks. Once you get to the highlight clip show point, that's when things start peaking. And I guess if you're The Simpsons, they just go up and down with the peaking because they have like constant clip shows every 5 to 10 years. So,
They haven't
but
had a clip show in quite some time, but they've had some,
they've had a
some
lot. They
returns.
had a
They've
lot
had
at
a
the
number of
beginning.
them because they've been around for a very, very long time.
Exactly. So once you do it after season 3 or during season 3, you know you're in for like a quick run towards the end. You know what I'm saying? Because
Honestly, the last clip show that I remember, Friends had one in their last season. That is honestly the last clip show that I remember because they don't do them anymore.
yeah, because like I think the last sitcom I binged was Schitt's Creek, and they didn't do that at all. Like they just keep going and
No,
going and
I mean
going.
I don't know if Big Bang Theory did it ever, but it just feels like
Yeah, so it's
it's
one of
something
those
that just doesn't
70s,
get done.
80s tropes, 90s tropes. So it's we
I
both
mean, do you?
experience it
I
in
mean,
both
it's
ends.
funny. Do you realize that the last episode of the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson was basically a clip show?
That I have heard because I think they recorded the Bette Midler stuff and all that stuff. Like it wasn't
Like
even live, right?
The Bette Midler, Robin Williams stuff was the penultimate episode, the thing that everybody remembers, basically. And then
See,
the
that's what
finale
I
was
know
just
of
shows,
as
and
the
that was it.
finale. But history writes different tales, I guess, because
But I
that's
mean,
how it is.
it's so bizarre to me that the
Yeah.
finale was a fucking clip show, and
Well,
basically
to
his
me,
ending monologue.
what's weird, well, we'll get to that in a second, but I think episode 14 kind of felt like the finale in many ways, but we'll
It
get to
really
that.
did.
It really did. But in this
So
case, let's talk
how
about
was
Snot.
the
Can we talk about
yeah,
Snot for
I'm
a
not a
second?
fan. I am not a
Okay,
fan of
well, we
this
talked
character.
about this last time. He's probably got a lot of money saved up from his residuals, I mentioned. But you know what? He looks good in
Maybe.
like the coat and the hat, and when she opens the door to Pesto in the scene, I marked out because I was like, oh, that's such a cliche, but like he looks good in the suit, even though he's too short for that role. You know what I'm saying? He's too short to be a detective and like a lead,
See,
but
I
I just
figured
find
you
that
would
funny.
appreciate that. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I think that for me, the biggest issue that I have with his character is he's just really annoying. And like he's less annoying in this episode just because he is. I don't know, like he definitely it gets worse when Maddie and David are separated in season 4. But in this episode, like I think he's almost okay. Agnes is clearly like Alice Beasley is clearly the star of this episode, and it's kind of designed as a showcase for her. And I think she does a really good job here as this becomes kind of a supernatural thing. And there's a lot of this is much more of a horror comedy than we've seen from the show in the past.
Okay, because like I was gonna ask, like how far have they gone with this like gimmick before? And I
I
looked
mean,
at
in
the air
terms of the
date.
horror, like I mean, the thing that's weird is that like they're going in really like literally a few episodes prior, which is it's generally agreed upon that their episode that they did where they parody Taming of the Shrew is their best episode. We're not talking about it, um, but they've gone in some very weird directions. So this is just kind of another example.
Yeah, and I kind of like that because it gives them some creative freedom. And clearly, what happened was like I think it's clear Bruce Willis and Cybil Shepherd did not want to do much for this episode, or we're just like we need a break a little bit. So they only had scenes at the beginning, at the end, and set it up for these two to take over, which is good because you can play a lot with these characters. And I guess they have this weird chemistry where they like each other, but they don't like each other. They're competing, but they kind of romantically like each other, but they're kind of competing at the same time. So that's got a nice little dynamic there. And with the mystery, like this, what I like about this show is like the mystery and like me solving the stuff. I kind of figured it out, but I was just like, how did they pull this off? Like, how did they get the things playing in each room? But they purposely don't show you like the dark corners of the walls where like clearly hiding, like, or the person behind all this is clearly hiding speaker systems to freak out the people. And they use the word gaslighting, folks, and this is 87. So like
I
clearly we knew
mean,
what
gaslighting
gaslighting
was invented
was.
in the 40s, and I also want to point out there's a lot of Scooby Doo that is in this episode as well.
Oh yeah, because the mask and the wig and yeah, all that thing, and
I mean,
there
just the
wasn't any crazy
hijinks. Again,
creatures.
there's a lot of
Okay,
comedy.
yeah, the hijinks too.
There's
Yeah, that's true.
chasing. Like it's very Scooby Doo.
And then the big bump with the electricity, like very Chamber of Horrors esque, if you get that reference. Um, but yeah, it was fun. Like this is a really fun episode. I love the dynamic between the two, and then the mystery of it all. And it was nice to see like not Bruce Willis and Cybil Shepherd like constantly going back and forth and stealing. Like you know how like Sam and Diane stole the first 3 seasons, and then once Diane left, you got other characters getting some spotlight. This is kind of what you get with that situation here. And I really enjoyed the episode. I like the mystery a lot.
I think it's a
Um,
perfectly fun episode. I don't know that it's
yeah,
an
and
all
the
timer,
title
but
is interesting because I guess Poltergeist 3 was in production because it came out the next year. So I don't know if they didn't know or did know because I guess 2 had just come out, and they were just
wasn't
like,
there a
they're not going to make
Cheers
a third one.
episode? Wasn't there a Cheers episode called Godfather 3 before Godfather 3 actually
I
came
believe
out?
so too. I believe so too. And then Bar Wars, like the Bar Wars became Bar Wars like episode. I don't think they used the word episode 7. They started using part 6 and 7 once that Star
Hmm.
Wars attached those titles. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a possibility. But yeah, just fun stuff all around, and it kind of had that Hammer horror type vibe to it a little bit with the screaming and stuff. So I appreciate that. And yeah, so it was a fun all around episode.
This is definitely
Um,
an episode that I picked
and
because
I thought this would air in like October, but it aired in January. So I was like, wow, okay. But you know, I guess because again, I guess with the history of the show, there's a lot of production issues, not in terms of like the
there are a
production itself.
ton of production
It's
issues. You've
just the
got to take into
actors
account
lining up, and then so
like it's weird. Like it's not because I think it would be really easy to reduce it to like, oh, Bruce Willis became a star, Sybil Shepherd's a bitch. Like that's not what it is at all. Like there are a number of issues that I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes after we talk about the next episode. But there really are a lot of things. It's
yeah,
not
because
just one
I
thing.
did the
So,
numbers, and so they got 5 seasons, right? But only 66 episodes, which if you do
and
the math, that's like
this did not get
that
us
should
to
be
the
three
fifth. Yeah.
seasons. Yeah, that should be 3 seasons. And then because of that, I don't know if people know this rule. Do you know the 100 episode rule on
I
syndication?
do know the 100 episode.
So they didn't, of course, they didn't get it. So it got like different kind of syndication where it doesn't get as much wide syndication because of its limited episode length. So it kind of didn't get as much, you know, like widespread post the original run like it probably should have, right? And that's why I think now like Hulu's kind of bringing it back. And then if you type in like Moonlighting right now in like a Google search, like you'll find all these articles that are saying like up till 2024 when this finally got streaming, like where's Moonlighting streaming? Like we want to watch this show with Bruce Willis, and then
It's
finally
the
it's come
music
out.
issue. It's the
Yeah,
needle
it was
drops. I
the
mean that
music
is a huge
issue. Yeah.
problem.
So now what's this is
As
once we fix that, like I feel like a lot more people now are like finding this show
well,
too.
I feel like because Bruce Willis, his unfortunate dealings with dementia, I think it really brought up like why is this show not streaming? And for those who are the Bruce Willis completists, like they would want to see it. And I'm very glad that this show exists. Like even though seasons 4 and 5 are not good, I mean the influence of the first 3 seasons, I think you see on TV and movies to this day. I think you see a lot of The Simpsons. I think you see Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino. Like you see all these different elements that are on this show, and it's just unfortunate that we really only have the 3 seasons of goodness before things really and rapidly deteriorate. So I do want to get into episode 14, but what I think is worth pointing out, like when you really sit down and think about this, like Moonlighting was a show that aired on ABC from 1985 until 1989. NBC is having this huge run with the Cosby Show, Family Ties, LA Law, Cheers. They have their big Thursday night. They're the #1 network. CBS is well established at this point. They have very solidly consistent shows. ABC for the longest time was kind of the third redheaded stepchild that was almost never the #1 network, almost never had the #1 show. And it's at this point in season 3, Moonlighting is a very buzzed about show because of the will they or won't they element involving David and Maddie. And that brings us to discussing the highest rated episode of Moonlighting of all time. That would be I Am Curious, Maddie, which has a shit ton of credited writers, which is kind of amazing in its own right. And it is not the season 3 finale, but I picked this because in 1996 TV Guide ranked this as one of its most 100 most memorable moments. And this is the point when Maddie and David punctuate their relationship finally after all the teasing that had happened in the first 2.5 seasons. So what did you think of this episode with Mark Harmon as the other man?
Well, I want to point out first that it was weird because Mark Harmon was slated to replace Don Johnson on Miami Vice during Don Johnson's contract holdouts between seasons 2 and 3 because he wanted to raise from $30,000 an episode to $100,000, and I think they settled on like 80 something or something like that. And of course, Philip Michael Thomas got screwed over and didn't get nearly as much money, but it's just kind of weird that the way that you booked this and the way I booked this, it's like, okay, you booked an episode with the guy who almost replaced the guy from the show that I picked, so there you go. But in this case, you mentioned that they have zero chemistry.
None.
I would say
Zero.
they got some. Like I
I don't
think
know,
they got
man.
better
Like
chemistry when they're
this is rough.
fighting.
Like
When they're
I
fighting in
I
the car,
almost
that's the
I
better
almost
chemistry.
I almost picked the Maddie's Turn to Cry the episode before this, and I was just like, I am not doing 2 episodes of this. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was getting annoyed just with the 45 minutes that we got of these two. And it wasn't even 45 minutes, but
Well, so this is the
because
first time I'm introduced to their dynamic, and like I was like, okay, they clearly like each other physically, but like, why does he want to marry her? Like, I didn't get that. Maybe I missed something.
well,
Because it just
you
seems
have to
like they met,
understand
right?
like
They just
that
met.
basically there are 3 episodes prior to this one that are basically building up to this one.
So how
Like there
long
are three
before they
episodes.
hooked up and he proposed? Like, give me a timeline, like a
I
month.
mean, I don't know. Like, so if you purely want to identify just by the first episode with these two together, that would be Blonde on Blonde, which aired on February 3rd, 1987, and at the time episode 14 aired, that was March 31st, 1987. So
Okay, one of those
generously,
short-lived TV romances that leads to a marriage that
well,
didn't
when you
really
really
build
think
up.
about it, it's only 4 episodes because episode 13 aired March 3rd and episode
Yeah.
14 aired March 31st.
Okay, so
Because
that I can kind of see it then. I can
part of
kind
the
of see it.
problem is that Glenn Gordon Green, the creator, was notorious for being a perfectionist and did not turn in scripts on time, which is why you get these limited episode counts, and probably why there's like a bajillion writers credited on this episode.
Also, want to point out that beginning you mentioned that kind of clip beginning, kind of recapping the previous 3 episodes. For some
Which
reason,
I'm sure you appreciated.
it made me think like the quote, like in wrestling, "How do I miss you if you're not gone?" Right. So I guess taking the show out okay, because usually around this time, even around now, a drama like this is 24 episodes a season, right? On a
I
given
mean, at
network.
this point, 18 to
And they
20 is
get
kind of the
18,
norm.
right? So what does that mean? 6 episodes? That means there was like 6 weeks of no like new episodes. Of course, the audience is going to be like, "Oh, we want more. We want more." They're giving us reruns, right? So I can kind of
I mean, I
see
don't know that I don't think
how they
that's
drew
true.
that big number. You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't
Like I
think
can see
that's
how they got it.
I think that's true in 1987. I don't think that's true in 2026 because
Oh
I
yeah, I
think
agree with that.
I
Yeah.
think shows that go away are forgotten
I think once
because I
they
think
started
you see that
advertising
in
like the
streaming.
brand new episode of Moonlighting after weeks of waiting, and they're going to finally reveal if we hook up, like I think that, of course, you're going to draw a big rating for that. So I think naturally the rating kind of like reflected the curiosity of the audience of whether or not they're going to hook up, and it obviously reflected. And then they didn't know how to evolve the relationship apparently, because that's usually the key. You got to evolve the relationship and not have them just fight and then break up
I
and
mean, the
then get
final
back
scene with
together.
David and Maddie is very powerful. Like I do have to say, I think that's the most effective part. And then when they kiss, and then the another great needle drop,
Oh
which
yeah, so you want to talk about that right now? The Martin Scorsese apparently unoriginal
I don't
needle
know if
drop.
Martin
I thought
Scorsese did Martin Scorsese watch this. Who knows? But like
3 years,
clearly they
man,
used the same
3 years
song.
before Goodfellas, and we know how powerful and awesome that moment is in Goodfellas. I mean, of course, this is a long tracking shot, but like, I just immediately think of that scene when I hear that song. But now my thinking has been altered,
It's a
Jerome.
great use of that song for that
Oh
moment.
yeah, totally. Especially with the dead silence and that 2 seconds of dead silence between, and then it goes dun 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 dun, and then the drums kick in. I love that song, man. It's like it reminds me of that era that I wasn't a part of, but like
Like
that soulful music of that era.
here's
I
the
love
other
that.
thing. I really want to know, like, people who are watching this episode, are they conscious of like this is basically Sam and Diane? Like literally, I don't know if they use the exact words, but there is a slap. I don't know that they use the word bitch, but like it follows a very similar rhythm to the end of season one between Sam and Diane. The only difference is Sam and Diane do not have sex, and clearly that's what these two are doing at the end of this episode.
Yeah, I think it's become a more recognizable trope because of that. Like once we see the Sam and Diane, and then it becomes this, and then it becomes what's the one? Rachel and Ross,
Yeah, but Rachel and Ross didn't really have like
and then Pam
big
and
sex.
Jim, and then it evolves every generation it seems, but there's always that moment, right? And I guess the math
I don't know
is
that the other ones weren't as volcanic as these two were. Like Sam and Diane and David and Maddie are very volcanic, and I think that's part of the reason, again, why they had a shelf life. Like this was never going to
definitely,
go 10 seasons.
definitely, yeah.
And again, I will reiterate, I don't think the Cheers with Sam and Diane is going 10 seasons either. Like I think they got very lucky to get away with five.
Yeah, I agree with that for wholeheartedly. And of course, my feelings have been stated that I love the Rebecca years more. So, but yeah, I think that it's weird that this felt like the season finale, and it's not the season
It
finale,
is
and it was
not
built up.
the
It seems
season
like it was
finale
built up.
is next week. They feel awkward. They decide that last night never happened, and then they end up sleeping together again anyway. And then they kind of start dating the next season, and things become a disaster. And we'll get into that in just a moment. But yeah, the weird thing about I Am Curious and Eddie is like there's no other plot. Like it's literally purely focused on them and their relationship and the fact that David seemingly won't communicate his feelings. And yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, the consistency in the writing on that was weird because it seemed like at the end of the last episode that I didn't watch, he was going to say what he felt, and then as soon as he sees Mark Harmon, he's like, "I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to be like a spoiled brat little boy and not say what I
Because
feel."
men can't talk, Ryan, apparently.
Okay, apparently I can, and that's what gets me in trouble at work sometimes. But hey, because some customers need to be told off, and just like, dude, you want to donate rusty, tetanus-ridden metal shit, dude? What are you doing? Sorry, that's me venting about my part-time job, and well, at least I got my eBay store to help me with that. So there you go. But on to Miami Vice, and boy, oh boy.
No. Hold on. Before we get to that,
Oh,
we need to
you want
discuss.
to talk about the
We
finale
have to
finale?
talk about the ending of. So I'm going to read something from the Pop Culture Fiend. This is an essay that was written May 15th, 1989, Brian. So you'll need to bear with me because this is a little bit long, but I think it's pretty succinct and kind of gets into some of the issues. So I'm going to read the first two sections and then get your reach. Okay. Moonlighting, how the best show on television came apart at the seams. Again, this can be found on pulpculturefiend.blogspot. It's all over now. Last night was the last episode of Moonlighting ever. Whether ABC will show reruns of this season's episodes, I don't know. The show might even go into syndication, God forbid. Regardless, there will be no new episodes of Moonlighting, but despite this, the show will not be forgotten. Personally, I have several episodes on videotape, including some of the classic ones. But as I was watching the very last episode, I couldn't help but wonder what happened. This is the show that 2 years ago was the hottest thing going, and now it's been abruptly canceled. I'm obviously not a network executive. I don't have access to Hollywood inside information, but I followed the show from the very beginning and made the following determination that helped explain Moonlighting's staggering downfall. Cybil Shepherd's pregnancy. Anytime a lead actress on a TV series becomes pregnant, it's trouble. And anybody who watched Moonlighting can regularly tell you that it certainly spelled the beginning of the end for the show. It happened during the great 86-87 season. By the time Mark Harmon showed up, the show was already shooting around her pregnancy. The Shepherd's pregnancy wasn't the only problem. For some reason, it was decided that the Maddie character would become pregnant as well. Now someone should have recognized that this was not a smart move. By making Maddie pregnant, the writers were painting themselves into a corner. They were committing themselves to a main storyline. What will happen with Maddie's baby, and will she and David stay together? The smart thing to do would have been to simply let Shepherd have a baby and write Maddie out of the show for the first few episodes of the 87-88 season. The show was certainly popular enough at the time, 9th in the ratings, and Bruce Willis was talented enough to carry several episodes by himself. Then when Maddie returned from wherever, she and Dave could get back to business as usual, and the romance could take whatever direction the writing team saw fit. So that is the first two sections, Brian. I also want to point out that we get an episode from the perspective of Maddie's fetus in season 5.
Okay, that sounds like Look Who's Talking, which ended up
I am
being
aware.
a Bruce Willis
Yes,
movie.
I'm aware of the irony. Yes.
I love that movie. Amy Herculing, go. She's one of my favorite all-time comedy directors, as I mentioned. But yeah, it's not surprising because there have been similar situations in other shows even after this. I don't know if you're familiar with the Married with Children.
Yes, I am aware of what happened there. And
so
some
I forget
really
her
bad
name.
luck.
Katie Seagal got pregnant, and they wrote it as a storyline into the show. Unfortunately, she had a miscarriage, and she was just so devastated that they felt like if they kind of wrote that in, that she lost the baby, it would be too much, obviously, for her as an actress, and of course didn't fit the tone of the show. So what they did was they did the whole Dallas thing and said the first 9 episodes of that season were just a dream and just forgot about it, right? So in that case, you're cool, you're clear. In this case, they probably should have done what that writer said, and just give her time off. You know, again, I just mentioned this before. How can I miss you? Not gone.
I think that I think pregnancies are kind of a death knell for shows at this point. I think there's enough evidence to suggest that it never leads to anything good, because then you have to plan around a baby, and that is not a good thing.
Friends had that issue, but I think they got away with it because she had the baby
barely.
Like,
I mean, the show was
or
kind of
something like
that
that.
show. I mean, again, that's another sign.
And then the other one I can think of is Leah Remini. I think got pregnant towards the end of King of Queens, and they kind of covered that up.
Again, we're talking about the end of these shows, and that's kind of a bad sign. All right, I have more. The writer's strike. Show creator Glenn Gordon Caron and the Moonlighting writers had trouble delivering the normal amount of episodes to the network under normal circumstances. Moonlighting was one of the most dialogue-heavy shows of its time, loaded with constant banter, sharp wordplay, flirtations, and lengthy arguments between Dave and Maddie. This led to Moonlighting scripts typically being much larger than the average one-hour detective show. So when the 1988 writers' strike hit, the show got off to a very late start that fall and began to lose popularity. Outside projects of the two stars. I'm just going to kind of summarize this one. So Cybil Shepherd had a career rebirth. She would go on to get offers for commercials, as well as also getting her own movies. Bruce Willis, as you would know, Brian, shoots Die Hard in the summer of 1988. That becomes a blockbuster. He decides he's going to quit after his contract is up. So both of them are basically kind of checking out towards season 4 when they're getting all these contract offers. And it's definitely affecting the quality of the show. Bad choices by the show creators. When the 87-88 season finally got underway, it proved disastrous. After finally sleeping with David, Maddie wound up flying home to Chicago in order to sort things out, while David, Bert, and Agnes held the fort. Having Dave and Maddie in two different cities killed the fundamental premise of the entire show, the friction and love-hate relationship between the two characters. Since the two were not interacting, the writers chose to focus some episodes on David and others on Maddie, with the exception of the two-part Cool Hand Dave episode. Most of these shows were just awful. There is a Pat Boone episode in which Maddie imagined what it'd be like if Dave cleaned up his act. I have watched that episode. It's really bad. The show's fans were not happy. Ratings began to slip drastically. Then, what was perhaps the worst decision anyone could have made, it was decided that Maddie would marry a man she just met on a train. One can only assume this was a desperate attempt to boost ratings via shock value and generate new interest in the show. But viewer response to Maddie's marriage was so overwhelmingly negative that the writers were forced to have her divorced 2 episodes later. Before I read the last section, Brian, any reaction?
Holy shit, the parallels to Miami Vice. Wow. So in season 4, to spice things up, Crockett marries Sheena Easton. It's Sheena Easton from real life, the collaborator with Prince and the 80s pop star, but like as a different character. And I mentioned the timeline thing when in TV, they meet in the beginning of the episode, they hate each other, and by the end of the episode, they get married after like a week of meeting, and then it just goes to this whole thing about Crockett and his wife for like a few episodes until she gets murdered. So there you go. Same thing.
Well,
Same thing.
We're going to be talking about fridging in a few minutes. So, bad choices by the show creators when the 87-88 season finally got under the way. Nope, I read that. I haven't read this. Natural decline in the quality of writing. Jeff Reno and Ron Osborne headed the Moonlighting writing team for 2.5 seasons. The group was able to inject the show with some of the snappiest, wittiest, and intelligent dialogue you would see prior to the debuts of shows like The West Wing, which Reno and Osborne also worked on, and Frasier. To this day, the Atomic Shakespeare episode of Moonlighting remains one of the single greatest pieces of television ever produced for a weekly primetime series. Again, that's the Taming of the Shrew episode that I mentioned before. And indeed, Moonlighting was one of the most creative and imaginative series in the history of television, and the fact that its scribes were able to maintain such high quality writing for as long as they did is testimony to their genius. But you can only go so far with the same characters in the same setting, and then the 5th season, the writers seemed to lose steam. The storylines became thinner, and the dialogue not as funny. The show began to rely more and more on the gimmicks, like characters breaking the fourth wall and addressing the audience directly, that had made the show something special. In the first episode of that season, Maddie lost the baby, finally freeing everyone from a storyline that should have never been pursued in the first place. The plan for that season was to start from scratch, but the damage had been done. Both the ratings and the buzz around the show had declined tremendously the season before, and through all the ingredients seemed to be there, the magic was gone. So there you have it. As I sat watching the last 15 minutes of Moonlighting ever, I thought to myself, so this is how it all ends. Okay? I thought about how I had been one of the few who had watched the show from the very beginning before it became so popular. I thought about the pilot episode, which so unusually in March 1985 is a very late season replacement. Later, I thought about how many people were missing the last episode, despite the fact that it was specifically written and shot as the series finale. So I'm going to read the plot description for that series finale in just a minute. It was a sad moment, but those last 15 minutes with Dave and Maddie were great. When Maddie said, "I can't imagine not seeing you tomorrow," it really felt like she meant it. And then there's a shot of Willis's face, and he looked genuinely moved, like he had all kinds of different feelings on the inside, like he knows that although things got awfully muddled along the way, nevertheless, this isn't the way the book should end. That look on his face says it all. Still in all, it was a great ending to a great show, and it was great while it lasted. So long, Moonlighting. I'm going to miss you. I love that show. So any thoughts on what I just read? But while I read,
powerful stuff, man.
I'm going to read the description of the finale. So go ahead, continue.
Man, that was very poignant, I guess, because I don't know. This idea of like bringing back shows, legacy shows nowadays. I wonder in a different universe would they bring back Moonlighting in their 60s when they're in their 60s? You know what I'm saying? Like in a different universe, like do we get
I
a couple? Because
mean,
it sounds like what that writer was
it had a
implying is
shelf.
that that
It
could
had
possibly
shelf.
come back. But I don't think that writer knew at the time that a possible legacy anything sequel to anything was like a thing. But that's what he's slowly
I mean,
implying,
I
as if
think
like,
what people have to understand is that things have a very very short shelf life, and you're going to be popular for 2 years, and that's it. I mean, when you look at anything worth any value, its shelf life is 2 years. Think about when the WWF first became popular, like truly worldwide popular. It lasted for 2 to 3 years, and that's it. And then
yeah,
it sort of
you
came back
said
in
it.
the
Actually,
Attitude
you
Era.
triggered something. You triggered something when Dusty Rhodes took over as Booker of Crockett. It's like the same kind of like timeline too. 84, 85, and then he has his peak in 86. Starts getting like, kind of desperate in 87, and by 88 they were like losing crowds. So,
The
yeah.
Attitude Era is 2 to 3 years. This latest really hot run the WWE had, again, it lasted about 2 years. Moonlighting was wrote hot for 2 to 3 years, and that's it. And I even think about Star Wars. Star Wars certainly was extremely popular, was the biggest deal of all time, but I don't know that it can ever exist as that anymore. And I think the same is true of Lord of the Rings. They keep trying to recapture the magic, and sometimes you just got to let things go. All right, now before I read, um, so I'm going to read the finale episode for you. So I'm just going to read the. This is the plot description
Wait,
from
wait, wait, really
Wikipedia.
quick. Who's the father of the baby?
Do they ever say who the father of the baby is? I need to.
Are you kidding? They don't mention that. I thought it was David this whole time until I started thinking like,
I
wait.
think it might. I think it might be.
Okay, I got to click clarification on that because if it's that dude from the train you mentioned, that'd be. Oh, we'll talk about bad decisions in the next Miami Vice talk. So, kind of related, but go on.
Yeah, I mean things get really weird. There's an episode where neither Bruce Willis nor Sybil Shepherd are on it, and it's on Herbert, and it's a parody of Casablanca. And boy, do I hate that episode. So all right, let's talk about this one. So we have so there is the basically what happens in the final episode is this that Herbert and Agnes get married, but the wedding ends in a brawl, and everybody spends the night in jail. Maddie and David learn that Moonlighting has been canceled when they return to the office, and it is in the process of being dismantled by studio staff. They confront a producer who tells them that romance is a fragile thing and that theirs is over. Again, they are totally breaking the fourth wall. They rush to a church in an attempt to get married, but the priest refuses to marry them, and they are left alone to reminisce. The series ends with a montage of flashbacks and the scene that I just described.
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know. Sounds like a cop out, but I don't know because I guess what there was a positive reaction to that episode we talked about where there's like the Blazing Saddles type ending where it breaks the fourth wall completely and like completely deconstructs the movie.
Um, Brian, do you realize who wrote the finale of
Can I?
Moonlighting?
Oh my God! Is it Mel Brooks?
No, it is.
Oh
It is Ron Clark. But do you know what movies that Ron Clark worked on?
no! Why did that name sound familiar?
He co-wrote the screenplays for Silent Movie, High Anxiety, and Life Stinks.
Okay, those are the not as popular Mel Brooks movies, and they're more like down to life lessons kind of Mel Brooks type movies. Especially Life Stinks. That's a really depressing one, but yeah, I get
Yeah,
you on that one.
he's
I
got
get
a
it.
wildly eclectic
Well, if you need a
set of
guy to break
credits.
the fourth wall, I guess that's your guy to do it for you in terms of writers, right? So, um, before Deadpool, even right, and before She-Hulk, apparently. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's interesting. I guess it matches the tone of the show itself, and this meta deconstruction of the show towards the end kind of fits, but this seems like a cop out. But I don't know. I guess I got to watch that last 15 minutes to kind of cement the finale in my head, but. I am going to binge
Yeah.
watch this thing. I think I'm going to binge watch the whole thing, knowing it's 66 episodes now. For some reason, I thought it was like 100 something. but because of that, it's a lot
I'm
easier to
telling you that
digest.
seasons 4 and 5 are terrible.
Well,
It's
I
brutal.
sat through Miami Vice season 4 and 5, dude, and believe me, I think I can withstand. I think I can withstand because I saw some shit in season 4 and 5 that like, wow, totally not what the first two seasons were jiving with. You know what I'm saying in terms of tone and color. But
And the thing that
yeah,
sucks is like that there was an oral history of Moonlighting done a few years ago, and I haven't had a chance to read it. I think I am going to, but of course Bruce Willis is not included, obvious reasons. So we have spent a very long time on Moonlighting. So let's spend some time with Miami Vice.
okay, so I picked season two's finale, Sons and Lovers, the continuation of the Calderon Saga, I guess, for Tubbs. And this is the, I guess, penultimate Calderon episode. There's the last Calderon episode in the next season that kind of cements the storyline. But in this case, it's all about, lovers coming back and the Calderon name coming back. And it's like, what's going on? There's someone put out a hit on Ricardo Tubbs, and it's like this big hit, but they want you alive. And it turns out it's Angelina from that episode of in season one where they hooked up and he had her father killed, or it was Crockett that did it. But yeah, so they basically kind of reconnect, and she tells him, "Hey, I had your baby, right? And I didn't tell you because I
I
didn't want
do
anything
like
to
that
do
they
with you."
picked a baby that vaguely did look like Philip Michael Thomas.
Oh yeah, that was the best part. I was like, thank God they didn't pick some like super like weird looking baby or like a fake baby to match the skin tone, but they actually picked like a baby that looks like part black and like part Hispanic. So that was really cool.
Biggest
But
problem with this episode is that it's really obvious where it's going. Like really
see,
obvious.
I don't know if it's obvious then because when did this okay, we've talked about this before, but the fridging thing, I don't know when it started. I guess what the whole Green Lantern comic, right? That's the pseudo origin of it all.
I don't know, but like it's the thing about fridging is that it has happened a number of times, and the problem is like they clearly just bring her back so she can die, and that's the issue, right? So it just even if you hadn't told me this episode was about fridging, it would have been really obvious that she was going to die just because of the nature of the show. And there's no way that they're going to give Tubbs a wife and a baby. Like there's just no way they're going to do
Oh
that.
no way! Especially the end of season two, like out of nowhere. But the thing is like I found it interesting that he was willing to accept it and just embrace it, which is like really interesting because
Well,
usually a
when you're
person
going
that
to murder them
perspective.
anyway, then of course you can just do that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like it's like if someone came out, like a woman comes back and this had this affair like a year ago, right? And she comes back and like I had this baby. Like, what do you want to do? Like, I would say 90% of us dudes would be like, "What the fuck? I want a DNA test." Blah blah
Yeah, but
blah.
I feel like with
But
the
in
show,
this case, he's like he embraced it, and I was like, "Wow!"
but the
Like,
thing
what
is, this
a
show. See, the thing is, the show is popular now, so I think they're probably trying to soften Tubbs a little bit too. Like Tubbs is basically sexually harassing women in the first season. I think he's kind of doing it in the beginning of the second season, but I mean, maybe they're trying to soften his edges a little bit as the show is becoming popular.
that too, and it does really humanize him in this. I mean, yes, it's fridging, but also it's like it really like rips at your heartstrings. Like, oh my god, especially the performance by Angelina. I forget her name, but like, man, like she's crying in the car when she's strapped to the bomb, and she's
I mean,
got this sense of desperation.
the performances in the show are always rock solid. I mean, Edward James almost is fucking terrifying because every line reading, it's like he's gonna murder someone. It's pretty great.
Oh man, yeah, I would recommend this episode and episode two where you get his origin, and it's like his background, and like, oh yeah, he's a tough motherfucker. He was like
He's
he was in Vietnam, not as a soldier, but as like an assassin or something. So he's like a tough motherfucker, dude. Like, yeah, they make him really tough looking, and yeah, especially in these earlier seasons where he's like not giving any leeway to Tubbs or Crockett. It's not until like season three where they start softening him up a little bit, but in this
I
case,
mean,
he's got
the
to be
thing is that
tough.
Crockett and Tubbs don't even argue with him. Like that's the thing. It's
Yeah,
like
because like I mean, it kind of stems from like when we mentioned the casting last week, like in their whole first scene together, like there was this tension, and they just like, well, I guess we're just gonna use that because it works, and the production crew was like, great, this is great stuff, and then the cast was like, I don't know, I feel like we're gonna get like really intense and might punch each other one day, and that's kind of what it led to. But until like they started breaking that up in season three and four when they kind of loosened things up. And we'll talk about in a second when Dick Wolf takes over. But this is still the end of the Michael Mann era, so to speak, because Michael Mann would go on to do Manhunter after this. But I guess for legal reasons, like he wasn't there hands on, like he was in the first two seasons, but he still gets the executive producer credit in like seasons 4 and 5, actually, or 3, 4, and 5, by
Well, I
virtue of
think
the contract. I
that's a
think.
rule that if you are an executive producer, you are an executive producer for life unless you do something so terrible that they have to remove your name. But even then,
Like,
it's really hard.
yeah,
I
because it
mean,
usually, I mean, especially with a Dick Wolf production, you're going to see executive producer Dick Wolf, but you never like ever see that, even when he takes over. But it's obviously he's got that effect on the show. But back to the Calderon storyline really quick. We get the debut of John Leguizamo. And I don't know if this is like officially his acting debut, but he's like 19 years old, and he's like the half brother of Angelina, the son of
I think the problem
Calderon.
is, he's too young, but he does a really good job. I don't buy
Well, the
it.
thing is, I think what the thing is like you know how like the idea that gangsters become younger and younger because it's like they're born into it and their parents get killed early and then they want the
I
revenge.
guess, but it doesn't feel like they're having him play 19 years old. If that makes sense, it feels like they're trying to make him older, and I think that's the
Yeah,
problem.
I think that's was his like thing because I think he's mentioned before that he wasn't ready for these roles in Miami Vice. And he was just kind of like way
And again,
underprepared.
I really like John Leguizamo just as a rule, and I think he does as good of a
Yeah,
job as one can do in this situation. But I just
and
don't
then
buy
again,
him
it's like
as
is this 19-year-old trying to be a tough guy that's trying to live up to his gangster father's reputation kind of thing. So I get that. And then the twist is, I think, okay, so it's implied that the baby dies in the explosion, right? Which is very horrific. But what really happens is he takes the baby, right? So Tubbs, during the whole run of the show, thinks that he lost his son, but in reality, the son is alive, dude. And they never go back to that. Like they never like even when
that's
John
some dark
Leguizamo
shit,
comes
man.
back,
That
I
is some
know. And
real dark shit.
then when he comes back, he never even mentions like, "Hey, your son's still alive," right? Like, because the funeral at the end of this, which is very dark, it's a Phil Collins song, I think. And they do the funeral gimmick, and it's like I
Phil
think
Collins had a run
it's
in the '80s that is probably unforgettable because
legendary, man, legendary.
I was watching this movie Against All Odds, and literally the movie ends with
Oh yeah, dude, that's I think they wrote the song for that movie, dude. Isn't
yeah.
that
Oh, they did.
the guy that directed Ray?
I think so. I mean, it's literally the Law and
Yeah,
Order font credits with that song being played. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. But yeah, Phil Collins again showing up in this, not showing up, but like having a song featured at the end. And yeah, Tubbs thinks that his former lover slash wanted to be wife was dead.
I
And
think
not
the
only
thing that
that,
shocks me the most is I always thought that Don Johnson was going to be the one where all this shit is happening to, and maybe we're
I mean,
just
eventually
focusing on
it does,
Willis.
but it happens more to Tubbs first because
I'm
nature of
always
things.
surprised that Don Johnson is the one under more control.
See, here's what happens. Remember, I mentioned the contract dispute between seasons 2 and 3. So not only does he get paid more, but even Edward James almost mentions that the writing switches becoming like instead of 50-50 booking, right? You're going to get like 70-30, 60-40 more on the Crockett
Yeah,
side. And that's going to be very evident, like I mentioned with the Sheena Easton marriage and him going crazy and going over the edge. But yeah, like, and also the other thing about this episode I like is like this cop knowingly gives away the location of Angelina and the safe house that they're staying at. And fucking Tubbs is like at the end of it all, like after the explosion, he's like, that cop, like he's responsible for killing my family, man. And then as soon as Crockett finds out that he's stalking him, like Crockett immediately goes to where he's at, like, dude, do not do this, man, do not do this. And all of a sudden the cops make it easy, these bad cops, and they come out shooting. And I was like, wow, you just made it easy for Tubbs to just nail
I
your
mean
ass,
that's a
and they
writing
fucking
trick.
nail him.
I mean, you can't. This is like the opposite. You can't have Han shoot first in this case, so you have to have the other
Right.
cops get first.
And it's justified because they were bastards on the take anyway, and they knowingly knew that they were gonna get this dude's family murdered, whether or not they were connected or whatnot. So, it's unfortunate again, like that's like a recurring theme with corrupt cops in the show and corrupt feds, but part of the deal. And Tubbs has to be the hero of it all, and he holds back, and until they finally shoot first. So, yeah, he gets his revenge, sort of, but not knowing that actually John Leguizamo got away, even though the editing is kind of like tricky with it. Like he leaves in the back door before the explosion, so they can just say, "Oh, he got away."
I guess they wanted to go back to
Yeah,
it at some point and just
and
never
they got
did.
back
Or
to it. They got back to it. So basically, in the next season, uh, Tubbs is with his girlfriend at the time, and he wins this contest to go on this vacation on an island. Wink, wink. Suspiciously wins. He gets on the island. He finds out the island is like not U.S. run, but it's like I forget what jurisdiction. But they're all in the take of Calderon, John Leguizamo, because he's running the island there. And basically, they're trying to trap him and try to get to him, but like he's trying to like fight back and eventually get some guns and get some people to help him fight back. And lo and behold, Vincent D'Onofrio is like the right hand man of John Leguizamo in this episode, and it's like what? So this kind of ties into why I picked this episode in season 3 for my final episode. It's called Streetwise. It's episode 10. But basically, it showcases like this idea of like we're gonna have these cameos of like up and coming actors that we think are gonna be like stars, and they end up
Game
becoming
over,
stars.
man. Game over.
So Bill Paxton plays an undercover cop, and he's
so great. I mean, his performance, he steals the show, man. Like, I don't understand how he doesn't get his own show after this appearance. Like, that's how good he is.
Well, I think it's like Aliens was right around this, so he was doing like, oh, I'm doing movies, I'm doing these TV spots, and then
I
Near
guess
Dark,
so, man. But like, I mean,
because like I think Near Dark and Aliens were like
are basically equals, and
yeah.
The fact they don't kill him, I think, tells me that maybe they wanted to bring him back. I guess.
I don't know. There was potential there, but the basic idea is that he's this cop from another precinct, and he basically went too deep undercover, fell in love with a prostitute, and he's trying to like get her off the street, and it kind of interferes.
Every sex worker trope that you've ever seen, and
right.
I am not a fan. I think.
And then who else? And then yeah, and who's the pimp, Jerome?
It's Wesley Snipes, who should have been a major character on the show.
He fit in right in. Like he fit right in. I don't know if it's. I guess I haven't seen New Jack. Is it New Jack City where he plays that other?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but I get the feeling that's kind of what he was kind of getting from this role here. And he's basically just a pimp, and he's trying to get his drug trafficking under control, but shit goes wrong when one of his girls, the girl that Bill Paxton, I think, or the friend of the girl that Bill Paxton is dating, takes like a gram or something and screws up this drop, and now he's like down in the hole in money, and he's frantic to find the goods, and then it kind of ties in with Bill Paxton, and that kind of turns into a shootout at the end. But I just wanted to point out, like, this is going to be a recurring thing where, like, at the beginning of season 3, we had Liam Neeson as an Irish revolutionary, and we're eventually going to get Ben Stiller. We're going to get George Takei as a bad guy, with Afa and Sika as his henchman, with Lou Albano as the leader, dude. And that's the same episode with Melanie Griffin in it. So, like, there's going to be some crazy casting. Yeah, a lot of weird shit coming up in terms of casting. And
well, again, you have a really popular show, so people who are
right,
near movie stars are going to want to be on it.
And not only that, but they were giving people shots at directing because, okay, you know Dick Miller, obviously, right? Obviously. He directed a single episode of TV, and it was for Miami Vice, and it was an episode with the guy who plays Kramer as the bad guy. I forget his name off the top of my head. Michael Richardson, and also features Bill Russell as a judge with a son playing basketball on a college team that needs to, take the fall basically for the gangster. And that was an episode directed by Dick Miller, and it ends with Bill Russell killing himself. So, just crazy casting. Man. Yeah, because what happens was he's a judge that gets in on the take, and if he feels so bad that he has to try to convince his son, to take the fall on this basketball game, but it's it's a championship game, and the scouts are there, and then obviously he's like, I can't do this to my son, and then he ends up shooting Michael Richardson and shoots himself, and that's one of those dark endings of like these dark episodes, man. So in this case, again, it's almost as dark, but I guess because Bill Paxton lives, but Wesley Snipes gets gunned down. So yeah, just
the action scenes are definitely better than the premiere.
Oh yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like you mentioned at the beginning of the first season, like the action sequences were not quite there yet. Obviously, with the increased budget, season 2, the success of season 2, you're into season 3. Yeah, they're gonna make it look good. And if you notice, the color rule was broken now because, like I said, Dick Wolf took over. The whole earth tone thing, the ban on earth tones was lifted. So the colors kind of change, and this is where the significant changes you start to see aesthetically in the show. And then by season 4 and 5, you'll notice like repetitions of storylines, and like, didn't we just kind of see this before in previous seasons with just different names and stuff like that? You get a bunch of those kind of episodes until season 5, where I didn't even know when I was watching it at the time that there was this 2-parter, season 5, episode 17 and 18, I believe. And little did I know, because they aired the episodes out of order, that I actually watched the finale. And at the end of the episode,
You'd
basically
be
the feds,
surprised at how often this happens.
yeah. So the feds basically do this thing where they wanted this dictator to come in, and he's played by Ian McShane, and Tubbs and Crockett bring him out of the country and bring him to the United States, and then things go awry, and the feds just kind of let him go anyway and let him get away with it. And Crockett and Tubbs are like, "What the fuck are we doing?" So they blow up the plane that the guy goes off in, and then just throw their badges at the feds and just walk off. And that's the end of the show. And then just leave Miami and have like a clips of like previous meetings and stuff like that of how they first met, and that's the end. And then I look and like, why is there 4 more episodes? So apparently NBC cut the season, under its legs really quick, and it ended like I think a week apart from the finale of Moonlighting. I think this was May 7th, and Moonlighting you said was May 15th.
Yep.
So yeah, a week apart. And it turns out they still had 4 episodes in the can, but when they put them into syndication on USA Network, they decided to air those 4 episodes as the lost episodes. So now, like, those last 4 episodes are sequentially supposed to be sometime before the finale. So yeah, it's just kind of confusing. So if you're ever watching season 5, just note that 17 and 18 are actually the last 2 episodes. So jump ahead and then go back to actually finish it in sequential order, which is ridiculous. I don't know why they didn't upload it in correct order anyway, but I guess it's like that on the DVDs and stuff. So it's what it is. But that's how the show ends. Very similar to the Moonlighting situation, like I mentioned. Like they had a Crockett marriage. They have all these guest stars. Season 5 has like Julia Roberts before she's like big, like really, really big. And what else? There's all these other cameos I'm probably forgetting. Viggo Mortensen, Lou Diamond Phillips, like all these guys. Oh, and God, I forget his name. He was the bad guy in the most recent Mission Impossible movies. He's the older brother from La Bamba. God, he's so good. I forget his name. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Isai Morales?
Isai Morales. He has 2 different roles in 2 different seasons, but both episodes, man, he is incredible and steals the show. Like, if I were to watch these episodes when I was like, if I was a teenager in the 80s watching it, I would have told you he was like a star in the making. But he didn't kind of like get to that point. But I feel now like people are discovering his real talent, especially after the Mission Impossible movies. But man, he was so good in the Miami Vice episodes that he was in. And ironically, he was in an episode where his mom was the same mom from La Bamba. So I was kind of freaking out like, oh my God, that's the mom from La Bamba and it's the son. But it ends in tragedy, obviously. But yeah, just some really really good stuff in terms of the cameos. Some not really landing. Like I know Liam Neeson everyone loves, but he didn't really land for me in terms of like this Irish revolutionary. And some of the characters get shortchanged. Obviously, like the female characters, Gina and Trudy, obviously don't get a lot to do. Gina gets some episodes more so than others. Like there was 2 episodes where she gets raped by 2 different gangsters, and it pissed me off both times. One of which was Stanley Tucci. The other was Rocky's uncle or brother-in-law. You know, I'm talking about the older Paulie. Yeah, just good Lord, indeed. Yeah, so just a lot of crazy stuff. And I wanted to mention justice for Zito, Detective Zito. You know the Swystick and Zito combo. They're kind of like the Laurel and Hardy in the background.
Yeah.
Well, Zito, the thin one, gets Tasha Yard. And if you know what I mean by that.
What?
So in season 3, basically, he leaves the show. He wants to leave the show. He's not getting enough writing, obviously, because he's in the background a lot. He's like, can I just leave the show? So when they write him off, what do? They give him the most dialogue he ever gets, right? Because he gets a 2-parter. He gets killed in the first one. Swystick goes from like comedy guy to like revenge guy and kind of switches characters and gets the guy at the end. But like basically, like it's a 2-parter that I would recommend checking out because it's like a boxing themed episode, right? It's kind of got that Rocky feel to it, but the end of part 1 ends with Zito's death, and they try to make it look like a fucking suicide, which is like so insulting, but it's done in a way for you to like get redemption on the characters and get the bad guys back, and he was really murdered. So that's kind of that. And if you think about it, it's justice for Tasha Yar, justice for Detective Zito, and I don't know, justice for some other shit that I can't think of right now. But you know what I mean?
It's like doesn't get justice until yesterday's Enterprise, but that's
which
a whole
was season
other
4 or 3 or 4. Well, yeah. So
at some point we're going to do a Star Trek run. I don't know when that's going to be, but
it's going to be tough because I'm still like doing my slow burn. I'm on season 5 for like the last year, but there'll be periods of time.
Brian, you really just need to finish and get to Deep Space Nine. That's what
there'll be periods of time where I'll watch 3 like seasons like a month. So you know how it is. But yeah, so that's kind of like the background of some of the other characters, and that's kind of where the show goes, and everyone kind of goes their separate ways. And at the end of season 5, Edward James Olmos is like, "You guys don't have to quit, you know that, right?" And then they quit, and then that's the end. That's the end, and we kind of get this kind of like farewell that's not really somber. It's just like an fu to like bad policemen who kind of ruin it for good policemen, kind of thing. So, and I guess that's justified given the themes of the show. So, but yeah, it kind of ends on a down note. But yeah, I just thought it was weird that it kind of ends like right around Wrestle War '89, I guess, if that my timeline is correct. I think. Uh,
Two of the really notable 80 shows ending around the same time and just before the 80s ends. I mean, I think that's really fitting. And also two shows that really burned hot and then got cold really fast.
for sure. And I wanted to point out Don Johnson's hair, man. Started out so good. Season 2 was like, okay, I would say his hair ratings. This is my star rating or my ratings for his hair. Season 1, 9 out of 10. Season 2, 8.5 out of 10. Season 3, like a 7. Season 4, 6.5, and season 5, it's like, what the fuck is going on, man? It's like too long, like way too long. It's like a 4 out of 10, man. So yeah, it's kind of like Ric Flair's hair, but I don't know. It just got worse and worse. So that was kind of like shocking. But Tubbs consistent throughout the whole thing in terms of style. And in terms of the movie, I'm hoping for, I don't know, a 50-50 booking and not just a focus on Crockett.
I mean, you're the one that doesn't like the 2006 version of Miami Vice. It is definitely 50-50 there.
Yeah, I'm finding some YouTube videos that kind of go both ways, right? So basically, the idea is that Michael Mann, the idea is that when he's in charge, like fully as a director, you don't want that, but you want him as like executive producer of a show like this and not be in full control. Otherwise, you
I
get the
mean,
movie.
I think the Miami Vice movie is really good though.
I get you because it's supposed to be the opposite of what the show was supposed to be, and of
I
course, me
don't know that
finding out
that's
later
true.
on.
Like honestly, after watching
Apparently, that's what he wanted
these
because that's why everything
episodes,
is dark and the colors are so muted down, and like a lot of
I mean,
night
like
shots more than
visually
other.
maybe, but like tonally, they're much more similar than I thought. Like Miami Vice, the TV show, is
Oh yeah,
very
for
dark in
sure.
terms of
And
themes.
and you got
So
to
I
mention
don't
too that
know that
Colin
it's that
Farrell.
different.
Well, Colin Farrell mentioned recently. I don't know if it's recent, but I guess
No, it's well known that he went to rehab during
he
or
went to rehab
was,
during the movie, which is reflective in the performance, quite frankly.
which I think actually enhances the movie. As terrible as that is to say,
We'll see. I think we're going to plan a Michael Mann month for when the movie comes out because that seems to be the right time to do it. And I think then we can probably try to go
And there's,
Manhunter
I mean,
and other
the thing
stuff.
is, man, we're getting a Miami Vice, but we're also like Heat 2 is coming. Like the casting is happening, and we could have Leonardo DiCaprio and Christian Bale in this movie, so it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, so Michael Mann's definitely having his, I guess, comeback. Because I think what
Yeah,
Black Hat
man.
I didn't watch, and that was kind of like it for me.
I I don't know that he should be the director of Heat 2, but the Heat 2 book is incredible. Like it's a really good book
So why don't they call it preheat?
because it is
You see what I did there? You see what I did
no, no,
there?
no,
Come
no.
on,
So
man.
you see, the thing is that it is like The Godfather 2. It is both a prequel and a sequel.
So it's preheat and heat. Okay, so I get you. I get you.
Well, because
My
the thing
my
is
my
like
pun
that
doesn't apply, I guess, but there you
because the
go.
thing is that there's a lot of stuff in Chicago with De Niro and Pacino's characters, and you follow what happens to Val Kilmer's character Chris after the movie Heat, and then it builds and builds.
Oh
It
yeah,
builds
that's right.
extremely well. I don't
Because
want to
I
spoil
recently watched it too on Amazon, and I was like, man, this movie. Well, we'll talk about it probably next year, but like Heat, on VHS,
It's
man, it might be
incredible.
a disgrace.
It's one of the best all time
Yeah, but like
action
we
movies.
watched it originally on like on VHS with like full screen, but like man, it's such an injustice to what you're missing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's such a different experience watching that movie
I
widescreen
mean,
compared to full screen.
the bullet sounds. It's. I mean, it's an all timer, and I I really hope that Heat 2 is as good as Heat 1 because the book is really good. So the material is there, is what I'm telling you. This is not a legacy sequel situation where it's going to suck. Like the book is really good, and I hope the movie is.
Well, I hope so too. And then in the case of Miami Vice, he's not. I mean, I guess he's like producing or whatever, but it's what's the name? The guy who directed Top Gun Maverick.
Very good
So
choice.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
very good.
that's a great choice, and he's really. I guess he's really in tune with like the the visuals and the aesthetics, because he's specifically calling it Miami Vice '85. So that's a very specific, like,
And
you
the
know what
thing
I'm
is
saying?
that his strength is in visual filmmaking and kind of throwbacks because
Right. So I expect the
he has done
neon
Top
lights, I
Gun,
expect the
Maverick,
pinks,
and
the
he
light
has done
blues.
F1.
Yeah, I want the pastel colors. Don't give me season 3 colors. Give me the season 1 and 2 colors. And I guess the soundtrack to match, which is not that hard to do. Like, you just give me some dope '80s stuff mixed in with
Turn the
like,
fucking lights on is what I'm saying.
yeah, that's true, that too. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm excited, and hopefully it's 50-50 booking, man. And Ricardo Tubbs gets more to do because I felt like even in the 2006 movie we got like 70-30 booking when it should be 50-50. So
All
that's my
right.
final thoughts on Miami
So
Vice.
for the month of June, we're going to move on. The month of June, we are going to pay tribute to those that we lost in 2016, which is well known as one of the worst years in terms of losing celebrities. So we are going to be paying
And
tribute.
personally for me too. So it's yeah, it's kind of like
We will be paying
wow.
tribute. So in the first week, we are going to talk about Muhammad Ali. We're going to talk about When We Were Kings. We are not going to discuss the Michael Mann movie Ali, which is not very good, I don't think. We are going to discuss one of the greatest sports documentaries ever made, celebrating its 30th anniversary. So we got kind of a double-edged sword there. When We Were Kings, as we will be discussing Muhammad Ali and his fight against George Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle. And Brian, we are pairing it up. The right match is back, and we can only pair it up with one thing, that being the WrestleMania 1 main event, which Muhammad Ali main evented in and basically got like the last standing ovation that he would ever get in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, it's a great moment, and I gotta find the YouTuber, but someone uploaded this raw footage, and I think I sent this to you a year ago.
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
the hard
Yeah.
camera raw footage of WrestleMania 1, and it's the main event, and it's a totally different experience and perspective. Like, without the commentary, it's very much that Joe Kobashi feel. So I think that's the one I'm going to watch again. Um, Actually, I might watch both because the commentary is really entertaining. I really enjoy that match. So sue me.
You got Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura in rare form, and you've also got a very drunk Billy Martin as well.
And the fact that they had no room between like the guardrail and the ring, and they had like 100 people around the ring.
I mean,
Clearly, they did not
it
know
literally
like what
looked
they were
like
doing at the
any
time.
literally looked like every other Madison Square Garden show. They didn't have the Dick Ebersol production values at that point yet. But we will be paying tribute to a number of people. We have plans on doing Prince. We're going to be discussing Purple Rain, which what an experience. If you've never seen Purple Rain, you really owe it to yourself. Just know that it is incredibly problematic. And there is a tremendous disparity between the quality of the music and the quality of the story.
Oh, that's for damn sure. Like, it's to me that movie's more of a concert movie than an actual movie, and we'll get to that. But
It is something else, and we've got other plans as well. Now we are leaving a couple of episodes on the table because in December we're going to do something a little special. We're going to be basically combining the themes that we've done throughout the year, and I can tell you as part of that there is a Miami Vice Christmas episode and there is a Moonlighting Christmas episode. The Moonlighting Christmas episode is really really good, and it basically mirrors It's a Wonderful Life. So I really want us to talk about it. We are going to do that in December. So we are not quite done with Miami Vice and Moonlighting yet, as we will be discussing those in December.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I don't remember the Christmas theme episode at all, but I probably do remember the episode itself, and I feel like the Christmas part is probably in the background of the episode, and that's why I don't remember it. But
Yeah, we'll
that's
see.
usually the case with Miami Vice, but we'll see. But I will say this: like my goal for this month was to get us intrigued into both shows, and I think that worked because I'm definitely gonna go on a binge of Moonlighting now to fill in the gaps and stuff, and I'm probably gonna venture into season 4 and 5 just to see what happens. But yeah, knowing it's a 66 episode run makes it a lot easier. My advice obviously is like 120 something,
Yeah, that's the
uh,
problem. It's like
but I would
I have other
recommend to
shit to
Jerome like
watch.
just the first 2 seasons and then probably selective cameo episodes, like I mentioned, like maybe the one with George Takei and the offense Sika, right? Just to get your WWF
The
nostalgia in
problem is
there.
the problem is I'm glad it's on Tubi. I'm glad it's accessible, but I really hate commercials, and it's just obnoxious. Even the few minutes of commercial time.
So it was on Peacock, and then I guess they took it off and gave the rights to Tubi for a while, and that's how they're getting their money on this. I guess once it goes back to Peacock, you can obviously watch it without it. So, but yeah, because Universal still owns the rights, and yeah, they're
Yep.
producing the movie for next year.
All
So
right, this has been
there you
one of
go.
the longest episodes from the of the Not Content podcast that we've done. So we're going to end things right now. For Brian, I'm Jerome. Thank you so much for listening. How about those Knicks going to the NBA Finals?
Wow, 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 wow. Shocked.